such 100% originals, really, aren't they? There's really nobody else like either of them, particularly Bjork. I mean, there's been lots of people that have been compared to Kate over the years. Obviously, they don't come close, but there's just no one like Bjork. I just love everything about the way she writes. The different every album is a completely different genre. If you think of like Human Behavior, that's I mean, what else sounds like that? It's just amazing. But then she's had her album Vespertine, where it's just weird little electronic noises and choirs and music boxes. She's just both of them are just push the boundary every time and just take so many risks musically, and it's really exciting to guess what's going to happen next on their musical journeys.
And would you say they're also quite theatric in their choices as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, particularly Kate Bush. She only toured once, which is really sad for me because it was in the 70s before I was even born, and I'm desperate to see her live.
Oh.
But her one tour that she did was. I've seen it on video and it's amazing. I mean, it's hilarious. She's such a ham, but she's so ridiculously theatrical. She's not just sat on a stage with the piano playing her music. She's dancing around. She's got men dressed as violins dancing around. It's all very theatrical, and in the songwriting as well. It's very theatrical from start to finish with both of those as artists, I would say. Yeah.
Fantastic. And again, we're talking about all these different influences, and you mentioned Tori Amos earlier. Now, again, there's a lady who writes with a very specific style about her, isn't there?
Yeah, I think something that I took from Tori is that she really writes with using a lot of metaphors. I mean, a lot of her lyrics, if you were to read them away from the music, are absolutely insane, and everything she says is pretty bonkers, really. But it just means something. Some of her lines are just. I'm trying to think of a fun quote. I can't think of anything, but they just mean something different to everybody that's listening to them, and. Yeah, and the inspiration I've taken from her is definitely the use of metaphor in song. I think she's the master of that, really.
Can you give us a little bit of an example of the metaphors you use in
Oh,
your
God.
work? Putting you on the spot there.
That is putting me on the spot. I've had too much ginger wine.
Oh, we try our best here at Audio Burger.
I think, I think like we were talking earlier, like with Medusa, using her as a metaphor for a negative feeling and holding on to something that is not right in your life. I think just things like that, really, taking something and making it sound. I mean, it just makes it sound more interesting and exciting to the listener, doesn't it? If you're using something like Medusa, is really conjures up an image, which makes the song more exciting. Rather than just saying, "Oh, I had a shit time and now I'm going to get rid of that." Like it's just, and that I think that way of using a metaphor is good.
And on top of that, if we go a bit further than the metaphor, we've then got writing comedy, because a lot of your songs do focus on the comedy aspect of life as well, don't they?
Well, I don't know if my songs do as such, but certainly my delivery of them on stage can do. Yeah, like I think my on stage persona is quite comedic. I like to laugh at myself and sort of ham up the costumes and the makeup and everything. But I think that's in a contrast to the music itself. I don't think there is a lot of comedy in my songs. I think they are mainly miserable. They're not miserable, but there's not. I don't think there's a lot of laughs to be had with with my lyrics and stuff. But yeah, there is. If you come to one of my shows, there's definitely a lot of laughs to be had for sure. Laughing at me.
Well, I'm not sure about laughing at you. I think certainly having witnessed some of your shows, and I know quite a few of Paul's listeners and followers are out there as well, because some of the questions are starting to come in. But one thing that does strike a chord with a lot of your listeners is the fact that you're very honest throughout your songs. There's no pretense, there's no ego. What is your point of view about the whole thing about ego within the music industry? Is it worth it, or is it just something that isn't necessary?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. For me, it's not necessary at all, and luckily for all the musicians that I play with, there's no egos, and and that makes it exciting. Well, I have obviously met a lot of egos along the way, and a lot of musicians are like that, and that's fine. But I think for me, if I'm bearing my soul on stage and on in the studio, then I can't really afford to have an ego as well. Like, this is me, warts and all, really. I think, and that's just how it is. And I just don't take myself very seriously either. I just, that's just not who I am.
Is it a case of take me as I am, or fuck off?
It is really, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You can't put it any better than that.
No, and again, getting back onto the whole creative process, the journey, because there isn't an ego at all in your songs, having listened to them over and over and over again, and people who are new to your work will probably pick up on a very interesting link, that the fact that your songs are very entertaining, directly to the point. Would you say a lot of what you do when you create the song, is it purely for the entertainment, or are you trying to make a point in a very roundabout, jokey sort of way?
Do you know, none of that really comes into my head at all when I'm writing. I'm literally just writing what comes out of me. I don't feel like I've even got a great deal of control over it. I'm just sort of sat there with the pen writing it down, and then I look at what I've written afterwards and think, oh, I wonder what that means. And then I read it a few times and think, oh, well, I have been feeling like this, so it must mean that. I certainly don't think about how it's going to be received. I don't think about how it's going to sound to other people. It's just for me really, and then luckily I do it and people seem to like it, which is great. But that doesn't come into it whilst I'm in that creative process. That's not really a thought that goes in.
What's the best and worst gig you've ever done in your career so far?
The best gig has probably got to be when I opened for Texas in 2005. I think
Texas? You
Yeah.
lucky so and so. What was it like?
It was amazing. It was at the Arundel Festival, and we played in front of 5,000 people, and just as the sun was setting, and it was just a wonderful day. It was really amazing, and it was very exciting and much more high profile than any gig I've done before or after. So it was a wonderful experience. The worst gig, well, there's been a few. I think I did on my last tour. I played a gig in Leeds, and it was a really shitty day. It was absolutely pissing it down with rain, and nobody came to the gig at all. I've actually got some friends in Leeds. None of them came because they all had one of them was ill, and I went with one of them in the afternoon. She had to be up first thing in the morning, and we played in Leeds on our last tour, and it was actually one of our best shows. But this particular show, no one came, and then the other two acts that we were playing with didn't turn up, so it was just me. And Bob, my backing singer, was ill, so she had to stay in the hotel. So it was literally just me playing the piano to the sound person, and she was looking on her phone the whole time.
My God, that must have been an absolutely terrifying challenge. I mean, playing with no one.
Well, actually, it was considerably less terrifying than you think because there was no one there. So I just sort of saw it as a live rehearsal, really, and I tried out a few new pieces that I'd never played outside of my studio before. So yeah, it was fine. It felt like a bit of a waste of time because we travelled from Leeds, no, from I think from Manchester to Leeds, and then we were going to Bristol the next day. So it just seemed like it was a waste of a journey, but it's fine. We got pissed afterwards. It was all good.
And what sort of advice would you give somebody who wanted to start on this whole road that you're going on right now? Because you're still relatively at the start, aren't you?
Well, I'm at the start, as in I haven't made a hell of a lot of money, and I'm not like in the charts and stuff. But I've been doing this for over 10 years, so I sort of don't feel like at the start. But I've only been sort of doing it seriously, I suppose, in the last sort of 3-4 years. My advice would be do it, absolutely. Like, there's no money in it in the beginning, but it's so much fun, and I really feel like I'm living the dream, really. I just get to go on tour and play with amazing musicians, and I would say to anybody who's feels like they want to do anything musically, just do it, because you only live once and you've got to get out there and do it.
And at this point, we've got to say a huge hello to M Bob, because she was originally going to come into the studio, but she couldn't make it. So a huge hello to M Bob. And Bob, Paul, is there anything you want to say to M Bob?
Just that I've been feeding your cat whilst you've been away, and he's fine. Little Wesley Stripes, he's all good. Me and him are solid now, so it's all fine. You'll come home to a happy cat, and all is well. I hope you've had a lovely time.
All I can say is meow to the cat. And who are the other band members we should say hello to?
Oh, there's so many of them. We've got Tessa on violin, who is the longest member of my band. Not long as in she's really tall. She's just been with us for a really long time. And we've got Tim on keyboards, and we have Anthony on guitar and Francesco on guitar. And we have Nigel on bass. We have people that come in and out. We've got another Tim on drums. We've got Mark on cello. I feel like I've forgotten someone. It's the ginger wine. I'm sure I haven't forgotten anyone.
And also we should say a huge hello to the wonderful girls in London who came down for your for your Christmas gig as well.
Oh yeah, Kat and Rose. Rose used to be our backing singer for a little while before she moved to London, and they're great girls. And I'm actually doing a gig with them in London on the 24th of March at Acklam Village Market. We're going to do the three of us, because they're both solo artists as well, so we're going to do a mixture of all three of our solo material and all play together, so it's going to be a really fun show.
Fantastic. And again, this whole thing, collaborations, lots of different people. What is your take on doing collaborations with lots of different musicians and singers?
I think it's just so much fun. I'm living in Brighton. There's so many fantastic musicians, and it just felt like when I started doing my fringe shows, I wanted them to be something a bit more than just a general, a band standing there playing songs. So I decided to call it Paul Diello and Friends, and then we'd get different Brighton artists to come and join us for different songs, and we'd generally do a cover, or we'd do one of their original songs and I'd put a harmony or something on it, and it's so much fun. It's just great to play with other people and get other people's input on things, and it just changes things up, doesn't it? It's really exciting.
And I guess it also keeps things very fresh for you as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm all the people that we've played with, I've been really big fans of. Like we had, I don't know if you know Sophie Madeline.
Yes, I do. She's quite a good kind of player and all-rounder, isn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing. And Tessa was my violinist. She was doing some violin for her album and some of her live stuff. And I heard her, I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. So I asked her to come and play a song for one of our shows, and she agreed, and it was just fantastic. So I'm really excited to be able to say, I did a song with Sophie Madeline. And with Kat and Rose from London, they often collaborate with us, and we've had Tigger, who's a friend of mine, and she sings in French, and that's always very exciting. And yeah, it's great. It's always fun to play with other people.
I was going to say something else then, but I won't. It's better than playing with yourself.
Well, that's true. Although playing with yourself has its merits.
That is very true. Now, I've got before we move on to your next track, is there anybody whom you would love to play with, creatively, musically, sing-wise, before you go?
Before I go, as in before I die?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you meant before I go tonight. I was like, have you got someone hidden?
Oh, I wish. I wish I'd thought of this before. I could have just done a surprise on here. I think.
That would have been something. I think, well, all the people that I've mentioned previously, obviously, I would love to collaborate with any of them. I think it would be amazing to do something with Bjork, just because I just never know what she's going to come up with next. So it'd be really exciting to sort of, I just can't imagine sitting in the studio and watching her work and thinking we're doing something together. I think that would be amazing. So I would say her, yeah.
Fantastic choices again, and this just brings me very nicely onto your one of your other tracks that you'd like played. Now, this is a gorgeous track, I have to say. It's called Roses, and for me, immediately the name remembers of the flowers and that wonderful scent that you get associated with romance, and of course we've got Valentine's Day coming up. Why did you write this song, and why is it very special to you?
Roses is actually one of the first songs I ever wrote when I was about 17. It was written when I first moved out of home, and it was about change, and it is about um, reflecting on sort of childhood things, and it was also about a sticky love situation that was going nowhere. So it's kind